Thank you. Thanks, Alan. That's a very helpful introduction, and thanks for sharing your details and being so helpful on the tech side. This is the first webinar that GUAC's run in-house, so Alan's taking over the tech function, and we're hoping it all goes really well, but all comments and queries and questions are very welcome. So good morning. I'm in sunny-ish Hampshire today, and we've got people from all over the country, and indeed from Wales, of course, today. So really delighted to give the morning slot to Alan and Ross from Tycalon. I don't have a huge amount to say, and I will probably go into, I'll come off the screen and mic as well, because I've got a bit of a, you might be able to tell, I've got a bit of a cough and a cold, so I'm a bit frog-throated this morning, so I won't say much. But in terms of GUAC notices, things to just keep, be aware of in the coming few weeks. The two major events we've got coming up are our second formal AGM, which is on Tuesday the 21st of November in the afternoon. Just 1 hour. We'll present our annual report at that meeting and vote in or out according to your will. Our board, some of our board of directors, a third of them, will stand. So that's a very important business meeting for GUAC, and another milestone reached. And in the same day, in the evening, we have our annual parliamentary reception, 6 till 9 p.m. That's on the terrace at the House of Commons, once again sponsored by Peter Alders MP. And we've got some interest from a number of other MPs from different parts of the country, actually, and we are encouraging all GUAC members who can, of course, to attend and come and enjoy the event with us, but also to reach out to their constituency MPs or any target MPs they may have on their stakeholder mapping to invite them along. It's a Tuesday evening, so Parliament's in session. The budget is the next day, so most MPs worth their salt will be around that day. So it's a great opportunity to try and network and just say, come down, have a glass of wine or a glass of orange juice with some of your important constituents, and hear some of the work that housing associations are doing to help people transform their lives and get into work and stay in work. So that's my plugs over. If you've got any queries about either of those events, drop me an email. I'll put my, I know pretty much everyone's got my email, but I'll put it in the box just in case. And we're managing the RSVP, so that at the moment we expect about 100 to 120 people along to that. Everyone is welcome. So I'll not take up much more time. I just wanted to say this is generally a GUAC member webinar. I think we've got some guests today from Pop-Up Business School, People Plus, Estuary, all very welcome. Particularly pleased that Monmouthshire, I think, have logged on today. Our second newest Welsh member gives us a chance, so really delighted they're here. And also, huge thanks in advance to Ross and Alan at Tycalon for taking on this webinar. We talked about this for a little while, and it became apparent that the DPS, dynamic purchasing system, was underused, underspending, and not very well understood by most social housing providers. And Ross and Alan have taken some considerable steps down the line of navigating the DPS. So we're really here to learn from them today. Ross and Alan combine some really interesting experience as well as individuals. So they've got both solid housing experience, as you would expect, but also employment services background. So they've been familiar with welfare to work, flexible New Deal, if that brings back any happy memories for anyone, community first, work programme, of course, and various ESF projects. So they've got that experience of externally funded projects as well. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about how they've worked with JCP and latterly DWP on accessing and getting closer to making the DPS work. And I think that there'll be something for all of us to learn from that. And I hope that this is the start of a bit of a learning and a briefing journey for GUAC members. And it may well be something that we come back to in more detailed briefing sessions, possibly at member days coming up. So I'll leave it at that. This is our penultimate webinar for this year. The last one is November. I'll come back to that at the end of this session, and I'll come off mic and our camera now and hand over to our lovely true hosts, Ross and Alan. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. Hopefully, everyone will be able to now see our presentation, fingers crossed. The one thing I would say, thanks for the introduction, Lindsay, one thing I would say before we start is, I think we found there is no silver bullet for DPS, unfortunately. As much as we would like that to be the case, it isn't. So what Al and I would like to share with you is our experiences, I guess, of a longish journey that we've been on regards to getting to where we are now. I'll talk a little bit about background, a little bit around the DPS background, just to make sure that everybody has a basic understanding of what DPS is there for, what it's about. And Alan will talk a little bit more about some of the practical steps that he's been through, and talk a little bit more about a very recent meeting that we went to, which was enlightening. Some worrying things there, but also some positive stuff coming from that meeting as well, which was held by DWP and URSA as a sort of a DPS of 1 year on. So we'll try and cover all that. But as Lindsay said, I think that the facility exists to ask any questions, and hopefully if the tech works, we'll kind of see them as they go through. So in terms of background, for those who don't know, DPS online tool essentially for DWP to manage and use a catalogue of suppliers who can deliver provision. Replaces the previous model for FSF grants. I don't know if any housing associations have probably met a number of housing associations that have delivered the old way of delivering FSF grants, which in my opinion was quite simple as it was, but clearly wasn't simple enough. So the DPS stuff again is based on needs across an 8-stage employability journey with 5 route options as well. So we'll touch on that. We'll give people a little bit of an idea of what they are. There's no minimum contract value for contracts on DPS, but they don't go up above just under the £500,000 mark. It's supposed to be a simple 3-step process, but Alan and I have found it to be not as simple as they'd like it to be. And the other thing I think was probably worth mentioning, which is different from the old way of sort of winning and delivering FSF grants, is we're under the impression that there are no state aid implications as it's done through a competitive process. So, which is much easier because you're not kind of balancing the previous state aid implications of delivering contracts. So that's just a bit of a background to DPS. So hopefully that's been relatively useful for people. I think what we'd like to talk about a little bit more now, more so Alan, is just kind of updating you really on our sort of journey so far. So we actually started the process back in October 2016, there or thereabouts, when actually the DPS was being pretty much launched. So the first stage we went through was actually becoming an approved supplier, which was going through the Bravo Solutions software, which was essentially completing a PPQ, which is a pre-qualifying questionnaire, which we completed. That process was relatively straightforward. Usual stuff you would expect at that stage, like your processes, procedures, liability insurance, fundamentals of what your offer could look like. That process worked pretty simply. We submitted our PPQ, and then we got the information as approved supplier back probably within 10 days. So it all started pretty good. It looked as if it was moving quite quickly. And then from the point of becoming an approved supplier is probably where we've had more of our challenges. But I think hopefully as we go through the presentation, hopefully we can give you an indication of how we're making progress, and it is worth persevering with. So in terms of that, I'd just like to hand over to Alan now, who sort of give you a bit more of an understanding of the practical steps that we've been through to try and get registered on the system and move forward with hopefully getting some money off them.
Okay, morning guys. Thanks for joining in. As Ross said, we're going to quickly run through our story so far. It hasn't been smooth. There are some frustrations, but as Ross has alluded to, there's some great opportunities there as well. So after we were approved accredited supplier, we met with the local JCP guys, or employment partnership manager. Went through the employability journey, which we'll flag up a slide later about that. Looked at what we could offer for the different categories. Thought there's lots of stuff we could do there, but it's a new system. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep doing what we're good at. So we identified probably, I think it was 4 categories initially, where one of the services we provide around building confidence, getting people work ready and self-aware. So around the soft stuff, getting ready to get ready for work, if that makes sense. So we uploaded that offer as a generic offer to cover all 4 categories, and just sat back and wait for the phone to ring, which obviously didn't. And I'll come to that later on when we talk about the DWP in last Tuesday. So after we uploaded that offer, which we thought, well, that's good, it covers enough of the categories, enough of the criteria, we then received an update from the DPS or DWP regarding different categories, different ways, different payment methods and outcomes and targets. So having looked at that, obviously we needed to review our offer. So we reconsidered again in far more detail the categories and the routeways around what we could actually cover with the initial generic offer, and how we would segment that into each category. We ended up choosing categories 2, 3, and 4. 7, I know you guys are aware with, you'll come to the screen later, but if you're aware, we could also cover category 7, but funding route probably was a bit more of a risk for us in terms of what we could deliver. So we looked at those target groups, and again, considerations were based on the funding model. We then relooked at how we worded, how we presented the offer, went through the categories again and picked out keywords and key phrases. And this is one of the things that came across one of the presenters on Tuesday in Birmingham, the DWP 1 Year On event. That ideally, and in theory, when the work coaches are with clients, if they word search or they punch in the keywords, the phrases around the target groups, those words will come up in the offer. But we don't know that yet. That's another thing we'll talk about later from the DWP meeting on Tuesday. So then we segmented the offer, broke it down specifically into the words and phrases used around the deployment journey for categories 2, 3, and 4. As you see from the slide, there is potential for us to do category 7, which is heavily biased towards actual job outcomes in 13 weeks. That's probably a bit of a push, considering the locality we're in as well. So we've gone with 2, 3, and 4. The basis of the offer, the product, the service we're going to provide is the same, but it can be leaned and fitted into these categories to meet the outcomes that are designed by JCP in each one. So we did that. Took a bit of time to do that, probably a couple of days until we nailed it and critically read by a few colleagues, make sure it was properly done. We then uploaded it, the revised offers. We're currently searching for local JCP feedback. The message that came from DWP on Tuesday at the event was that the local officers, JCP, need to be more engaging. We need to engage more with them. As a result, we're actually meeting with a local employee partnership manager next Tuesday. Obviously, we're going to push on this and a few other things as well. There is still some ambiguity with what you can and cannot say. You know, we can't go marching into job centres with a sales hat on, being salesmen. There has to be some protocol around it. We're still waiting for some clarity from DWP on that. But we've taken the initiative really and spoken to the new employee partnership manager in Blythe Gwent, and covers one of the other boroughs as well. So we'll meet with him on Tuesday. And guys, the cross fingers is a bit of tongue in cheek, but that's where we are. But we are, as Ross has said, we are further down the line. We're more positive about what we can do. It's just, I think it's a bit like a dam. You know, it's starting to leak. Once the leak starts, it'll flow. We'll talk about some other stuff now from the DWP meeting. There's a massive underspend. JCP have admitted they need to be more flexible and a bit more engaging. There needs to be a shift of mindset and culture around staff as well. How that's going to work, how that's going to happen, we don't know, but they're very, very keen for it to work, as are us as providers. As I'm sure Ross will expand on this. But in terms of a housing association, what we can offer within DPS is, and those who are heavily involved in employability in your organisations, is a massive opportunity as well. And although it's there's a pot of money there, everyone who's bidding for a contract, there's criteria to meet, and if the criteria across 3 or 4 different providers are the same, it will be based on cost. and probably telling you guys to suck eggs, but housing associations, obviously we're not in it to make money, just cover costs, obviously provide some social value as well. So that's where we are, guys. There are some pitfalls, but there's plenty of opportunity as well. So if anyone's got any questions, going back through the little flow chart there of how easy to upload the offers, or anything we think we missed, or if we've talked in jargon that you've understood, just let us know. Thanks.
I think it would be useful now to just flag up the employability journey. Probably lots of people, if you've got experience with DPS, will have seen this document at some point. This is essentially how JCP, sorry I'm jumping around a bit here, but I'm trying to get a decent view for you. So this is essentially how JCP have broke down what they believe the DPS provision covers. And the way the system is set up at the moment is quite a mechanical, mechanistic way of identifying and matching needs against what your organisation can provide as an offer. So this document is probably one that you probably really need to, if you haven't already, you really need to get quite close to this document, really understand where JobCentre Plus think that they may have a demand in this area, but also essentially what your delivery that you provide now, where you think your support services sit within this model. So, you know, and it's relatively detailed. There's probably not an awful lot of types of provision that people deliver that are missing. But I think what's interesting about this is, I think when we talk about matching words, we've actually taken the approach without going too far over the top. But if we are saying that we believe what we can provide fits within category 2, a lot of the description and a lot of the outcomes that we are offering have a lot of the words in there. And our understanding is that primarily becomes the platform for matching the need that JobCentre Plus has against the offer that you're prepared to provide.
That's our current understanding, guys, how the work coaches with the clients, and they bang up what category they're in, and the keywords and phrases come up. I should match against your offer. That's our understanding. We're still waiting for some absolute feedback from DWP, because we're told on Tuesday that every offer that's uploaded will get feedback. Hours of reviews and uploaded 2 months ago, and we're still waiting. So I know they are working on that anyway.
So we look at the top, we've got the eight stages. Generally, as you go from sort of left to right, as you look at the screen, you'll start to see that they move from engagement right the way up to skills for work and getting jobs. The interesting thing about this as well is, if you look, in addition to the types of intervention and support service they're looking at, if you look down to the bottom, the devil's in the detail there as well, in terms of how these are linked to funding. And DBS is still outcome based, is still payment by results. So whatever your offer is, whatever your cost of your provision is, which you have to detail in your service offer that you upload, the funding model will apply to whatever your costs are. So
Ross,
quite quickly, it is.
My apologies, it's Alan here. I think we're not seeing the screen that you're referring to, by the way.
Okay.
We're seeing the DPS presentation final PDF with the review offer in the top left-hand corner.
Well, it's come on my screen as a sharing. So let me just stop sharing and see if I can do it. Have a look. See if we try it again. Can you see that now?
There we go. That looks like it. Now we're seeing a big table, a word table.
That's it. That's it. Okay, so unless anybody specifically wants me to go over that, hopefully you'll kind of still be able to make links to what I've said. But this is essentially the table that really should dictate certainly the initial offers that you put together. If you decide you want to upload offers to the DPS system about the services and provision you can provide, DWP will expect you to talk in their language. They'll expect you to cross-reference what you do into what they expect to be able to deliver as a customer journey. And as you can see now through the boxes, you can see that the words are quite specific. And as I said, we've matched a lot of our offer by using the terminology that Job Centre Plus has provided within their different categories. I said that the devil's in the detail with the funding model. As you'll see, it's all payment by results. Some outcomes lend itself more to different types of provision than others. The further along you go, the more money is potentially paid on job outcomes. But if you look at the provision, the chances are that provision is going to be more expensive to deliver. But the way we've looked at it principally is the more the category goes up, the chances are there's more risk, but there's probably more reward for the organisation as well. Hence why we at the moment have sort of offered mainly around the sort of the early stages, the preparation for work, the sort of supporting people with multiple barriers. One, because a lot of the products and a lot of the interventions we currently deliver now lend itself more to those categories than the others, but also we feel more comfortable as it is at the moment that the resources we have in place and the target and the funding model probably lends itself to be less risky than perhaps some of the other models later on down the line. So as a first goal at DPS, we decided that we would stay more on the sort of the guaranteed side of the outcomes, even though you have to prove them. Start fees and completion fees, completion of action plans, etc., are far more within our control than perhaps 13, 26 weeks employed, sustainable employment. So the one thing to always bear in mind if you're looking at that is obviously the provision is great, but it comes with a defined funding model, and there is no way to negotiate different funding models within each one of the categories. It's pretty much fixed, as are the performance expectations. So this bottom section across here, again, there's no negotiation. So whatever your offer is has to reflect the minimum performance criteria that DWP are looking for. So again, there is no wiggle room from DWP's point of view. When you accept your DPS supplier contract, that's essentially all the terms of the contract are in there. The only difference is how you receive payment for the offers you make. There aren't no opportunities to negotiate your wider contract with DWP. So as soon as you sign that one contract, all the terms of that contract apply to any future provision you would run, aside from funding model may change. But they've been very clear that there is no opportunity to negotiate on contracts. And the other things that they offer, which we've not had a look at yet, probably is a little bit further down the line for us if we were to do routeway stuff, but they identify different types of routeways as well, which essentially combine the categories above into a program. So they've recognised that some of the provision that providers will deliver probably covers more than one category. So there are opportunities to put your offer across more categories, but they still have to fit into their routeway definition, which is either Route 1, Route 2, Route 3, Route 4, Route 5. And the brackets there, the categories, would be where they see that particular set of interventions being delivered. So, it's quite structured, it's quite, again, mechanistic in the way that they see it working in terms of how offers are built. DWP at the moment appear to be pretty clear what they think good provision looks like. Our understanding is it's very much on the local level as to which type of service and which category customers need supporting is the theory. But we'll talk a little bit about how perhaps the theory isn't matching up to the practical reality of things. But again, at the risk of repeating myself, if you were to take anything away from, I guess, today's webinar, it would simply be looking at this document. If you've not already signed up and said, we can do some of this stuff or no, we can't, that's probably where I would start to base my provision from. The other thing that we've done is we've taken a view that we will fit our existing provision into one of these categories rather than trying to develop new provision to fit one of those categories to find funding. So we're already delivering a lot of that stuff anyway. And our approach at the moment is we may as well get DWP to pay for it as our own tenants to pay for it. And we know it works. So that's the kind of the principle we take in terms of positioning our offers and why DPS is relevant for us, except we'd rather have somebody else's money to do it than spend our own. Alan, hopefully you're listening. Is there a way to answer some of the questions? Because I can see there's questions flagging up. And
yeah, so with the questions, we've got a range of questions going. One through some through the chat. So just feel free to respond to those, as they come up. We've also got 2 questions that have come up through the Q&A function. So if you click on the Q&A button at the bottom, you'll see that Jane Entwistle has asked 2 particular questions. Feel free to just answer those, and I'll mark those off as done.
Yeah, fine. So Jane, in terms of your question, is it open to anyone? Yes. I think DW, we've been pretty clear that we couldn't refine an offer just to tenants. They're the gatekeepers to the provision. So I think it's a given that if you're putting your offer in on DPS, you will receive all referrals from that particular job centre that they deem appropriate, your tenants or not. That's okay with us because we've taken the general principle that we will support tenants and non-tenants. Priority is tenants, but we will support non-tenants as well. But they will expect you to take non-tenants as well as tenants. In terms of contract management and evidence delivery, does this sit on the DWP CRM system? Who knows, to be honest?
Yeah, we have to provide evidence on outcomes, and we refer back to the previous page, the performance. They will ask for figures and evidence. Where do they keep that? As Ross said, we don't know, but I assume they'll have a record of it, because if they don't have a record of it, they won't pay those things.
Another one's come in just for the referral. Can you limit to a particular postcode area? Our understanding is no, but you can restrict it to Job Centre Plus offices. And that's probably as far down as JCP would go. I think the one thing that we're experiencing here as well is, and this is part of the reason why we're not spending as much money, universal credit, changes in Job Centre Plus, changes of provision. The work coaches have so much work that they have to get through. This process has to be as simple as possible for them. So they are not going to do anything other than the quickest route possible to the provision, which is probably clicking a few buttons. So it has to be by Job Centre Plus area rather than postcode area.
One of the things coming back, guys, from DWP is local provision for local needs. Spoken with a few national providers, and they were covering against obstacles that what was right in one area wasn't right in another. So just be wary, and actually your offer does actually fit the local need.
Rustling here somewhere. Okay.
Someone's in the shower.
I haven't been able to see the chat function, so I got.
Okay. Hi, Ross and Alan. Thanks. Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah. See you. Yeah.
Sorry, Ross, you'll need to come out of full screen mode, out of screen sharing, and then you should be able to see the chat functionality as well.
Okay. Just while you're doing that, there's a couple of really quick requests, which hopefully Ross and Alan, you'll be happy with. One is to share a copy of the presentation. I know we've got the slides that you started with, but also this Word document that you pulled up. Could you share that with Alan so that we can circulate that with the recording and everything after the webinar?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Yeah. Okay,
great. And a related question to that, just from me, is where did you get that document? What's the origin of it? Is it DWP, JCP?
Yeah, DWP issued it. It's widely available. Anyone who speaks to the JCP who deals with DPS to be able to give you a copy of that. I think there's a copy on the URSA website as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. URSA, of course, are a partner of us, very helpful with it. There've been a few questions from Tahira, and I think Jane mentioned it as well, about you've already answered that the offer, if you go for an offer, it's open to anyone that JCP wishes to refer to your offer. Yeah. But also, can your own residents step forward into that provision and ask to be referred by JCP into your provision? Do you know the answers to that yet? Or
I think it would be I think it would be difficult. Because we haven't actually got into that process just yet. I think it would be difficult because technically the provision doesn't exist until they demonstrated a need. So I guess we'd have to be careful, but we're not seen as pushing lots of demand with Job Centre Plus, that our tenants going in and saying, I know that my organisation wants to do this. I know it's sitting on this system. You should be putting me on it. I think once the existing provision was there and it was a live provision that Job Centre Plus was purchasing from us, I think then we would be in a better position to actually say this provision is actually live now. Go and talk to your work coach about it. But I don't think we could use customers to kind of generate the demand quicker, if that makes sense.
Okay, that probably leads to a question on timing and timescales, which came in from Sylvia. Sylvia Morley, she says, how long has the process that you've described taken so far? And I suppose I might add a second question to that, is how much longer do you think it will be now before you reach that contract engagement point?
Started in October 2016.
Okay, so we're looking at your 1 year anniversary. Congratulations.
Yeah,
DWP, not us.
I think one thing I would say is that we put our offer on right at the start of the DPS system becoming live, and very early on, Job Centre Plus was saying to us, and the partnership manager was saying, we probably haven't got a lot of money this financial year anyway. So the reality, even though we put it on in October, the reality of it was we weren't expecting anything really significant, if anything at all, to come through until April. Actually what's happening. So even though we got on there early, we never really expected anything to happen in the first couple of months anyway. We then put our offer on, and actually putting the offer on, once you understand your costs and what your offer is, the actual uploading of the offer doesn't take that long. It's quite a small process, and we've actually limited the offer, I think, to 1 page of A4, is it, or two?
The offer. Yeah, the main body of the offer is probably 3/4 of an A4 sheet type.
Right.
Then you have all the other boxes where you fill in the keywords and key phrases.
Okay.
But in terms of how long it would take us, I mean, the conversations we're having locally at the moment with Frontline Job Centre Plus in our area is this really isn't on work coaches' radar at the moment. They've got so much work that they've got on at the moment. Them pushing me forward, Job Centre Plus being able to build a business case that reflects exactly what the local offices want in order for them to do the matching against the provision is part of the problem where they're stuck in at the moment, is that there's need out there, it's not being well identified, and the business cases are not being written particularly well that allows the local provision to be able to match it against our need. What we are is that, and as a result of Alan's meeting on Tuesday, DWP have recognised there's a lot of problems with putting the business cases and putting the offers together. So the fact they've come out and recognised that probably helps to move forward a little quicker.
That's the internal business case from the job centre to the purchasers within DWP.
Right, okay, so it's an internal justification.
And again, I mean, you've got work and health programs that will be going live shortly as well, which is another thing for Job Centre Plus to contend with. If I'm honest, I think it will probably be perhaps post-Christmas that I think that we'll probably be starting to have some serious conversations about it, hopefully. Right. But again, with Job Centre Plus, I think, when we're talking to local Job Centre Plus advisors, the raft of stuff that they're now being asked to do with their customers, we're seeing full universal credit, full service rollout as well. That appears to be taking the lion's share of their attention, rather than kind of finding provision for some of those customers at the moment. So it all relies on Job Centre Plus being able to kind of articulate and demonstrate the need before they can buy anything.
That's useful. And Tahira has made a couple of interesting points, maybe some advice for all of us, really. She says, we know working with JCP, sometimes the resident has to ask, or so the customer has to ask the work coach in order to get them to action something. So I suppose there's an argument or a position that if we have enough of a customer base, which would probably be our residents in the first instance, that we know want something, that there might be some work to be done with them going in and communicating that with their work coaches in order to help the work coaches perhaps to build that business case. I'm just wondering if that...
Yeah, well, funny, we had a bit of a conversation around that this morning about making our offer helping the JCP staff their job easier, and you reiterated time and time again on Tuesday that it has to be flexible to local needs at that time. Probably having contracts being issued, then starting 6 months down the line with the need to changed. So there has to be that agility locally as well.
Okay.
My personal approach on that, Lindsay, would be I think we would like to think that we were exhausted all of our relationships with the frontline staff and Job Centre Plus managers before we was using our customers to try and generate the demand. I think that's, for us, that would almost be like last case scenario, that we have people turn up saying, I know Ty Callan want to do these things. I know they've done. Why are you not putting me on it? I think, there's a risk that will go the completely opposite way then for looking at some of the individuals and some of the way the relationships work. So we think we're breaking ground. We've already had a conversation with another relationship manager in Job Centre Plus already with us straight off the bat of the meeting on Tuesday. So we're already getting a sense that they want to come to the table and have a conversation about this more so than perhaps what they were before the meeting on Tuesday. So I would stay away from that approach, just personally, knowing the culture of the Job Centre Pluses that we work with.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good to know, and interesting. It sounds like there's some different approaches from panelists to what you're feeding back, Ross. So it certainly seems that personal relationships with your JCP are key and are going to vary office by office and district by district.
Yeah. Sorry, Debbie's question.
Yes, yeah, you've got ahead of me. Yeah, quite right.
Yeah, Debbie, you can put the offer across any region or any geography, any job centres you want, but just obviously refer to what your resources are and what you want to deliver. It's up to you. They are looking for local delivery. There are national companies offering that, but they come up with problems from region to region. So in essence, yes, Debbie, but it's based around your resources and how adaptable you think you can be.
Has one of your colleagues just come in to ask why you're talking to yourselves?
Yeah.
No, they didn't ask that. That's what's worrying.
Just another normal day at Ty Callan.
Yeah, that's about right there.
So hopefully, Debbie, that answers your question.
Debbie, do put a message in the box if you need a bit more clarification on that. Just so you know, Alan put the results of the poll in for that first question that came up just as you began, and about just over a third of people are registered on DPS at the moment, 2/3 not. So clearly, and I think that would very easily reflect the GUAC membership. In fact, I'd be surprised if a third of GUAC members nationally were registered on DPS. I know a while ago, Ross, you sent us some documents which talk through the actual process of registering onto Bravo. Going back to those first steps, is that bit relatively pain-free? Is it quite easy to navigate and get your head around?
It's quite standard, if you were bidding for any kind of DWP Job Centre Plus contract, it's the normal due diligence questions, like I said, your insurance, your sort of mandatory questions around fraud, your policies, your procedures. So as long as that stuff is easily available within your organisation, the actual process of becoming an approved supplier is probably the easiest bit, to be fair.
Right.
I would say there's no harm in any organisation becoming an approved supplier. If it takes them 12 months to put an offer on, there's no harm in being on there, because once you're on there, I think you're on there for 5 years, is my understanding, without there being any other subsequent checks to go through, because we've not had to supply any new information as a result of us coming up to 1 year being on the system. So, and that approval route was very, very simple. They then email you a copy of the DPS agreement, which you have to sign before you can be finally approved as a supplier. As I said, that agreement, is very little wriggle room in that agreement. It's fairly straightforward, but that becomes the contract through which all of the other interventions are delivered. So once you get all that hurdle and that contract signed, there is no other contract to be signed other than the description of your service offer. So that bit is relatively straightforward. The actual putting of the offers on is actually, in theory, quite straightforward.
It is.
Again, the challenge that seems to be happening is those offers matching the need, or being able to be matched to the need of what Job Centre Plus are looking through a recognised business case. So that seems to be where the disconnect is at the moment. There's lots of stuff on there that is really good, but it's proving difficult for JCP to find out which of that stuff they want to buy by getting demand from Job Centre Plus, and then being able to generate that into a meaningful business case, which they can then purchase the provision. So it's you've got two ends of the system that appear to be working, but it's not quite matching in the middle. The
analogy is if someone's two people building a tunnel, and they don't meet in the middle, both in the same direction, they don't meet in the middle of that.
And is that reflected nationally? Alan, you were at the event earlier this week with some DWP or JCP officials there. Do they understand that? Do they get this problem?
Oh, you're frozen. Lost you there, you froze. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you're back online.
I was just asking if that disconnect that you're talking about, Alan, is that reflected nationally? Are you hearing that from JCP? They know this is a problem?
Yeah, we heard that from one of the district managers on Tuesday in Leicestershire. Who seemed to be quite proactive with the system anyway, and certainly all the providers were saying, they were talking about the same problems. There's commonalities around the problems that we're having as well in terms of frustration. So everyone's in the same ballpark.
Okay. It'd be interesting to comments or experience from any of our attendees on that. So I'll just sort of ask if anyone's got similar experience. And there's 3 questions from Tahira. If you don't mind, I'll just run through those.
Okay.
This might be a theoretical question at the moment, but who can access your service? Is it all claimants, new and old claimants?
Yeah, I mean, our understanding is if they are being supported by JCP, they will be, if they deem suitable for provision, they will be put on the provision. So it's all claimants, and I think the offers allow you to specify which of the customer groups that you think your service provision is best suited to as well. And you might see, and we have seen a document, and this is where we went back and revisited our offer, we did see that Job Centre Plus did put something out to say, we would like provision in this category specifically for these customer groups. So we have seen evidence of it, but again, we've not seen anybody actually delivering any work as a result of those contracts that have been set up. So Job Centre Plus might decide that they want a provision specifically for people on ESA. They might say they want it for young people. Whatever their local demand is, they can ask for it as a specific customer.
We go through some figures now that came up from Tuesday on the next couple of slides, but they were saying that a lot of the percentage of the contracts in it are around mental health. Interesting.
Do you want us to flag up some of the stuff from that meeting on Tuesday in terms of some of the other things that we learned as a result of that meeting?
Yeah, I'll just quickly cover off one easy question. Would you mind sharing your contact email addresses after this so that participants today can follow up with you guys? Is that all right?
Yeah, no problem. No worries.
And the last question, I think it might be in theory at the moment, but would you base yourself in a JCP office or have a TICAL or member of staff there for a day a week or working alongside work coaches, or is that off the table?
I think in terms of engagement with JCP, the DWP protocol is probably that's not the best practice. Because if they said, well, you can come in for a day, they'd have to offer that desk space to everybody else.
Right,
okay, so that's what you're hearing. Okay, that's useful. So yeah, Ross, over to your reflections.
Yeah, I think what we do as well, we try to do, like if we're doing any engagement events for particular programs, we might advertise that through Job Centre Plus. So we'll bring them in to say we might be running a program for 18 to 24-year-olds. This is the provision. Can we hold an awareness event in your offices, which might make it easier for Job Centre Plus to refer customers to a session. But in terms of that, sitting in an office and almost picking up referrals that way, we think it's probably a better environment. But we do, whenever we can, we do try to engage Job Centre Plus in being part of the recruitment for our programs. And generally, they've been we've been well received by running events like that in their premises. They're actively trying to do more of that kind of stuff in this part of the world, opening up their offices for recruitment events, using their offices for recruitment of different partner projects. So that's kind of the relationship that we've developed with them. It seems to be working reasonably well at the moment.
Yeah. We're still waiting for DW clarification on what methods we can use for engagement, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Ross, over to you. I slightly interrupted your flow there with a few late questions, but you said you wanted to reflect on what you'd learned from that event.
Yeah, so Alan will go through just some of the useful stuff now that obviously came up at that meeting.
Yeah, it was a very open event. The guys speaking from DWP were very open and honest in where they are and where they like to be and what they like from us as providers. We went through some figures on what's been awarded so far this year. You can see the underspend this financial year, and we're already nearly in November. So I think, how are they going to manage that in the next 6 months? I'm not sure, considering the average contract size is 50k. In terms of contract size, the national providers, probably work in the areas of millions. 50k is probably nothing, but for small to medium-sized housing associations, 50k to deliver some core-funded provision is probably a nice little sum. The categories, which we talked about earlier, those are the two most popular. Interested in category 7, which is performance based primarily on job outcomes. So that was interesting. This was very subjective as well. They recognise with the work coaches and some of the employer relationship guys that there needs to be a culture change in the way they become more flexible. They touched on the issue that a lot of people are trying to get back into work or move closer to the job market at ESA. Obviously, they cannot be mandated. So there's a culture around how you engage with that group of people. The offices need to be flexible. So if they buy a product, don't be surprised at the last minute they might add a few things in or change something. So resources need to be adaptable as well. This one made me laugh. It was real speak. Apparently, they're value mapping their digital interface, which means the computer system isn't very good. So they need, in terms of how they interact through digital medium, needs to speed up and be more dynamic. Ross has touched on this earlier about when the local JCPs are presenting a business case to buy a product off DPS. They need to be better at that and more efficient. And obviously, with the budget underspend, they are going to be actively looking to spend more money, because I think if they've allocated, I think it's around about 45 million pounds a year, Theresa May's budget, and it's hardly been touched. Someone's going to be shouted at somewhere to spend some money, I think. Okay, that was some of the key obvious information that came across on Tuesday.
Just lastly, just conscious of time, just kind of go through, just summarising really what we've learned. I mean, you'll obviously get a flavour that for us, particularly building relationships with JCP frontline advisors is crucial in terms of making sure that they really understand what it is we think our provision can do for their customers, but moreover, what can our provision do to make their life a little bit easier. And I think that's the bit that doesn't get scored maybe on all this sort of stuff with DPS. But probably if I'm sitting down and I'm working in Job Centre Plus, I want to know that whatever provision that's been delivered can make my life a little bit easier. Don't rely on the system to do all the work. A lot of it is still built on relationships, still making people be familiar with what it is that you've got available. Keep using Vastware regularly, even if you're just going in to just make sure that your offers are right. It's kind of a piece of kit that if you lose touch with it, it might be a little bit more complicated to get back up to speed with. But using it regularly is good practice, we find. Just make sure that you're up to speed on the employability journey, get familiar with it. Again, maybe an idea is to map your current provision, your current offer against those categories to see where you think your best opportunities are for delivering some services. We've assigned Alan as a DPS lead within the organisation. We're really, really keen, and we continue to want to push to have money from this, because we believe that somebody else should be paying for us to do this rather than use our own money. So, having a lead in the organisation means that securing money through this doesn't drop off the table. We touched on the JCP element. Again, no negotiations regarding the nature of the call-off contract. It is what it is. DWP got enough providers on this, so there's no opportunity to review. Our advice would be make sure, again, you look at, as well as this sort of the categories, make sure that the funding model sits well with the organisation. Again, I don't obviously teach people to suck eggs, but you know, there are a lot of complications with different funding models on this. So again, there's no negotiation on them. And our pretty much our stance is we are offering JCP to buy what we know works for us, rather than DWP telling us what they work. You know, we want DWP to pay for stuff that we're already doing that works. And that's why we are so keen to continue to exhaust all opportunities and avenues for getting money for this kind of provision, because we believe it works. And as I said, we believe that DWP will be better paying for this than our tenants at the end of the day. A couple of sort of things then, next steps for us. So we'll continue to meet regularly with the district managers, employee partnership managers. Those meetings are being planned and ongoing. Make sure that our offer is updated. I think what the worst thing could possibly happen is you lose sight of that, your offer's on there, JCP say, oh, we want to buy it, and then you can't deliver it because something's changed. That becomes a difficult conversation to have. So it's good practice to kind of, if things change, don't leave your model on there if it's undeliverable or things need to change. Using a contract finder to look at awarded contracts, we've been advised that's good practice to kind of get a sense of the type of organisations that are winning contracts, the type of contracts that are being let. Looking at bolt-ons as well, so even though you've got the categories you talked about earlier, see whether there's opportunities, and what JCP is saying that the providers that have got work have tended to offer a little bit more than what the actual criteria is asking for, so that's quite interesting. We're looking to make offers as part of the consortium as well, so as well as offering our provision as in isolation, we'll also now be saying that actually we can deliver this as part of somebody else's bid. So we'll be going back to JCP to see if they will tell us who else is actually on the framework delivering in the same areas as, so we can start to have conversations with them about combining some of our offers. Keep up to speed with what's happening on the USA website and DWP, and request a DWP newsletters, because we're under the impression we should be getting them anyway, but we're not. So that becomes a useful source of information to keep on top of what's going on, I guess. Tahira, just a question. No, you haven't misread it, because we haven't had any referrals at all yet. So yeah, that's why the fingers are crossed. Is we're just waiting for Job Centre to buy the provision, essentially.
Well, just to add on a bit further to that, Tahira's DWP of what's the impression that I got, that if you upload an offer, every offer is supposed to get feedback from DWP, but that's not happening. So again, that's feedback we've given DWP about their feedback. So they said they'd look into it. Okay. So, and a couple of providers I talked to on Tuesday, they were saying they uploaded their offer, sat back, didn't hear anything for months, and all of a sudden they had a letter saying your offer meets XYZ criteria. So we're still waiting for that letter. Okay.
I think just finally, I mean, we kind of hoped we were on the right track when we were kind of going to the meeting on Tuesday, and essentially the situation we described and our process is pretty much what everybody else has gone through. It pretty much seems very familiar in terms of some of the challenges and some of the barriers that we've had. It certainly hasn't put us off. We will continue to persevere with this as an opportunity to secure some funding. In Wales, the landscape is slightly different with regards to Welsh Government procuring some big projects in the long run. But essentially, aside from the work and health programme, there doesn't appear to be any other big ticket provision on the horizon. So for us, this is kind of one of the key things we're chasing in terms of external funding. And I think that's it, really, because we're running out of time.
Yeah. We'll do one more question, Tim, up over
Brilliant. You've covered them all off. I thought we might have to run a few into email exchanges, but I think Ross and Alan, you've covered all the questions that I could see coming up either in the chat box or in the Q&A. We had a poll which just ran, and I think I'll see if Alan has got the results of that. The question was whether, well, I think he's screen sharing.
I was just taking us off the screen share there. We've got 8 out of 12 so far, and it's 100% yes.
Okay. And Tahir has commented that her answer would be not sure. So that's no. We did make it rather brutal. Yes, no. So fair enough to hear to have a not sure. That's fair. But good. I'm glad of that. Of hearing that most people are thinking of pursuing it in a bit more detail. I said at the beginning that I think this might be the start of some further detailed briefings for members as our experience grows in this area, and I think that is probably well, that's definitely the case based on that poll result. Actually, that some members, GUAC members, need a bit more support, so we will seek that out. Both with URSA, of course, who we work with. GUAC members are automatically URSA members, so we might do some specialist support work with GUAC members on this area. Sounds like it's easy to start and engage, which is great, and get onto the system. And now looking at those last slides where you gave the underspend and the issues, that is going to be taxing someone quite hard in JCP, and they will need to get that money out the door, as you know. So I would hope and expect that we start to see some movement in that to allow contracts to be let more easily based on local need, which we and our members know pretty well what local need is. So that's all cool. Ross or Alan, do you want to say anything else?
Just thank you for having us. It's the first one we run, hopefully it was useful.
Really good. It was brilliant. And
the members will get some benefit out of it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And these things usually throw up more questions than answers. So again, you know, Ross and I's email address, so we're quite happy to answer anything. And anyone who's near to us wants to come and talk to us, that's fine as well.
Thanks, Alan. So we will share both of your contact emails, and thank you both. We really appreciate that. We've come to time nice and naturally, which is always a good sign. There was a good, healthy number of questions, and people are engaged. I'm really happy with that. And of course, it's recorded, and we'll share that with all GUAC members so people can revisit that. And we'll share the slides and the Word document also, so everyone will have the resources they need. Last thing from me then is to say that our last webinar of the year will be the last Friday of November, and I think the topic is going to be on mental health first aid, but we'll get more details out for members in the next couple of weeks.